Imagine if you would, you and I were talking together and you were telling me, Chris, I love what you've been doing. I love the idea of living the more intentional life. I want to get into personal development. I want to start my own journey of living the intentional life. And one of the first things that I would like to become more intentional on is finances. And you asked me, are there any books that you would recommend for me to begin to develop in my personal finances and grow in my knowledge of that and really begin to live the more intentional life where finance is concerned? What would you do if I said, I have an amazing book for you? It's this is my top recommendation. I would recommend it to absolutely anyone. And I gave you the title of the book. Maybe I even had a copy of it. I was like, here, you can have my copy. This is so wonderful. Oh, by the way, it's a great book. It's entertaining. It's a lot of fun, but it's mostly inaccurate. When we're talking about personal development, to me, personal development is us doing what we know to do to become the best versions of ourselves. A big part of personal development is growing in your knowledge and just getting more information. Now, not all information is worth having. Not all information is good. Not all information is helpful. So, part of living the more intentional life where our personal development is concerned is being more intentional on the information that we allow into our lives, being more intentional to what we're learning. But unbeknownst to most of us, many of us are receiving inaccurate information on a regular basis, and it's causing our personal growth, our work to become the best versions of ourselves to get off course. So let's talk about it. As I'm recording this video, today is July 19th, 2024. Just a few days ago, someone tried to assassinate President Donald Trump. Now, this is not a political video. I don't I'm not afraid to get political, but I just generally don't get too political, and that's not the purpose of this channel or the purpose of this video. But in the process of this, it just brought up something to me that I just became more aware of and began to think about, and I want to share it with you. As a general rule, I am not a person who watches the news. I never have been, and then as I grew older, I didn't find much benefit of it. But when something like this happens, obviously I went online and I began to go to different things and just Google, find out what is going on. What do I need to know in this situation? And in the midst of all that, I was reminded why I don't listen to the news. The simple fact of the matter is, I don't believe there's any mainstream media out there on either of the political divide, whether it's liberal media or conservative media, that's giving you accurate information. Now, in the past few years, we've heard a whole lot about fake news. I'm not talking about fake news. Fake news, we're talking about people putting news out there that is just patently false. I'm not saying it's all fake news. It's what I would call pseudo news. It it kind of looks like news, but it's not accurate news. Whether you're talking about liberal media or you're talking about conservative media, they all have an agenda, right? And the news you're getting is being distorted through that agenda. It's kind of like, do you remember caricatures? I remember we used to go to like a theme park and they'd always have an artist who would do caricatures. And a caricature is basically, it's a picture, it's an illustration of you, but it's kind of distorted, right? The artist will pick up on a feature of you and they might enhance a feature of you, they might distort a feature of you. They'll take some specific part of you and they'll make these caricatures. If I showed you a caricature of a person, you'd have a general idea of what they look like, right? If the artist chose to draw their nose really big, you could assume whoever this is a picture of probably has a larger nose than normal. You don't know how large it is, but if the artist chose to enhance or distort that feature, it's probable that person has a larger nose. Now, imagine if you were on a dating site. Now, you should not pick the person you're going to date or the person you're going to marry simply based off looks, right? Looks can be important. Physical attraction is important, but it's certainly not the most important thing. So suspend your disbelief, and let's say you were choosing someone to date based off looks, and you decided that you were going to go do some online dating, and you went to a site and every person's profile picture was a caricature of that person. Now, you might be able to look at the caricatures and you might be able to say, okay, this is probably a feature of theirs. This is probably a version of what they might look like. But wouldn't you want to see an actual picture? Wouldn't you want to know what this person truly looked like? That's what mainstream media is. They will push and enhance certain things to fit their agenda. Now, the reason they do this is actually fairly simple, and it's actually fairly smart from a business standpoint. When news started becoming entire networks, when we went to 24-hour news, 365 days a year, it was no longer news at 5 and news at 10, but now we have networks of news. Those news networks need to make money, right? They have to have money to stay in business. Now, the primary way they make money is through selling advertising. And now, to be able to sell advertising, to make money, to keep your broadcast or your network on television, what you need are viewership. And so the thing that sells, the thing that gets viewers, is polarization. The more polarized a situation is, the more people want to know about it. It's just that simple. Now, why are we as humans this way? I don't necessarily know, but that is the simple fact of the matter is. So when news went to 24 hours a day and they begin to have this need to stay in business, they realize to stay in business, I need advertisers. And if I need advertisers, I need people who are watching so I can tell the advertisers how many people are watching. And so to get people to watch, I have to polarize. And to polarize, I have to choose a side, basically. And so you have conservative media and you have liberal media, but both of them are doing this exact same thing. Moderate does not sell eyeballs, it does not sell advertising. And so news companies, and they know they do this, and really you and I should know they do this, they distort. It's a form of it, right? They're not outright lying, but they're distorting in a way that they think will get them the most viewership for their group so that they can get the money. But the problem with that is we fall for it. I firmly believe one of the most divisive things in our country today is mainstream media, both sides. I'm not picking sides. I'm not saying, oh, it's MSNBC. Oh, it's Fox. It's both sides. They're doing this to us. So whatever side you choose, and for whatever reason you choose, you should understand and you should know you're not getting accurate news. Now, if you know that, and you're trying to be a person who is developing and growing, I'm not talking about the normal person. You're watching a YouTube channel called The More Intentional Life that's all about personal development. If you're wanting to develop personally, become the best version of yourself, and you know that requires learning how to think for yourself and make your own decisions and not just go with the flow of everybody else, and you need accurate information to do that, why would you sit and sow inaccurate information into you? Why would you ingest that information? At the very least, you need to combat that. If you really feel you have to have the news, at the very least, go watch both sides and then divine from each one where that middle is. Am I saying you should never watch the news? You might be better off not watching the news. But no, I'm not saying that. But I'm not being political. I'm talking about living the more intentional life. I'm talking about I desire to be able to take in information and make my own decisions on it. And if I know I'm getting inaccurate information, I can't make the right decision. I can't form my own thoughts. I can't form my own opinions. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can suggest, but I can say if you want to live the more intentional life, it does not benefit you to knowingly take in inaccurate information. And I'm just telling you, whether you believe it or not, you're getting distorted information. But here's another thing that the news does that is very It's very concerning when you realize it, when you look at it. One of the ways mainstream media distorts information is they will take the far, the extreme individuals, whether it's far right or far left, and they will point out these extreme ideologies, these extreme ways of thinking, these polarizing people, and they will paint a picture that everybody is this. This is your average Republican. This is your average Democrat. This is your average white person. This is your average black person. This is your average police officer. And their job is to polarize so they can get viewers. And the problem is if the conservative leaning mainstream media paints all Democrats as far left. Now there's a politician out there that I don't need to name names, but the things that comes out of that person's mouth are dumbfounding to me. Absolutely, they make no sense. There's no way that their policies could work. If I believe that all of that side believes that, then I cannot sit down and have a conversation with that extreme, whether extreme left or extreme right, is so far from where I am. There's no way to get to a middle ground. And so if I believe all left is that far away from me, or all right is that far away from me, because it works on both ends, then I resign myself to the fact that we can never come together. We can never agree. And so our politics has become one-sided. I can't, if I'm a Democrat and I think all uh, Republicans are that far right, I can't work with that, so I'm only going to look after my group. Or if I'm a Republican and I believe all Democrats are that far left that we could never come to agreement, I'm going to focus on just my group. And that's why politics has become divisive. But I really believe it's because of the mainstream media that has made the divide bigger and bigger. I'm not involved in the news very much at all, but when something like this happens, I went back on the news and I began to look at it, and I realized once again how damaging mainstream media could be because it's inaccurate information. It is a caricature of real life. And you can get an idea of what really happened from a caricature, but I want the real thing, and that's hard to find nowadays. It really is. Part of me living the intentional life is determining what will I believe, what will not believe, what can I do to get the most accurate information that I can, so that I can make my own decisions and have my own thoughts and grow into the best person that I can be. I don't know if that helped you at all. It was just something that I've been thinking about, and I think I think we all need to think about it. I think we all need to understand. I think our country would be in a much better place if all mainstream news media just went offline. Now, will that happen? No. But you and I, we're living the more intentional life, aren't we? We're growing and developing, and we're becoming the best versions of ourselves. And that means we're going to get the most accurate information that we can. And some information we don't need. Inaccurate information is unhelpful information. If you like that video, would you consider hitting the like button, or maybe even sharing it with somebody else, or subscribing to this channel? But until I see you again, go out and live the more intentional life.